Good evening everyone. For tonight's book talk I'd like to discuss John Buchan's historical novels. John Buchan's motivation and approach to his historical novels offer a contribution to the genre that has unfortunately been overshadowed by his deserved reputation as a thriller writer. When readers pick up The Three Fishers or The Blanket of the Dark, looking for the rip-roaring chases and the rush of events in the 39 Steps and Greenmantle, they are likely to be disappointed, especially since contemporary reviews and publishers' blurb refer to the Buchan touch. But Buchan was seeking to give us something else in these romances of Old England. 4 of his 5 romances are an invitation to join him as he seeks to connect with the history of the landscapes he loved. First, we need to acknowledge his standing as a historian. 3 of his biographies survive as durable and significant lives. Sir Walter Scott is accepted as a standard work. Cromwell was written before England's recent attempt to reassess her Stuart past, but remains a significant introduction to the character of the man, and his biography of Augustus stands as a pinnacle of this author's work. He must have been immensely proud of this book. His several attempts at Montrose are limited by his hero worship of the subject, but his early essay on Francis Bacon, it is difficult to believe that this book was written by an 18-year-old. He demonstrates a grasp of history that influenced his whole output. Without doubt, he considered his history books as his important work, but I also think that he rated his historical novels as his serious fiction. When he turned to historical fiction, he was not only free of any drive to assert his credentials as a historian, those were already well established, but he recognised that he was now writing something different. Historical romances are not history. Neither are they simply good tales told in a historical setting. No, the novelist needs to bring something extra to the table. Buchan wanted to establish the thread that connects us with past turmoil. The novels are successful because there is no attempt to teach us that thread. Rather, he wants to carry us along as he discovers it for himself. So we start with a feeling that the author is in no better position than we are. Strangely, it was the main weakness in his writing that allowed him to bring a special quality to these books. John Buchan was incapable of producing well-rounded and believable characters. My favourite series in his work are the Edward Leethan stories, but we can enjoy these 4 books and the related short stories without getting to grips with Leethan himself. We can close the omnibus, and I have done many times, smiling and well satisfied. But we know the character no better. Buchan gets away with this because he was writing about England's upper middle class, where we expect the players to be reserved and courteously discreet, but no, that is no excuse for poor characterization. However, it is this flaw that provided him with an opportunity to bring forward landscapes as characters in their own right. His public first saw this technique in the 39 Steps, and it follows through each of his subsequent stories. In Buchan, landscapes do things. Hills roll, valleys emerge. In one moment, woodlands hide the characters, in the next they expose them. The landscape is the starting point for Buchan's romances. He recognised that this is the common element that he shared with those who went before, and it is through this scenery that he hopes to understand them. Each of these novels is a quest to feel at one with our history, and Buchan invites us to join him on that journey. While he did not set aside his skills as a storyteller, He was determined to settle the narratives on a sound foundation of understanding the land in its historical context, and if he required a slower start or a digression to establish that touchstone, then he was content to rely on his strength as a writer to bring it off. This may have been risk-taking, but I don't think it was indulgence. Here was his serious fiction, remember, and he wanted the space to do it well. In 3 of the novels, including the acclaimed Witchwood and The Three Fishers, probably the best of the bunch, the novels draw on the Scots and border scenery that he knew in his childhood. But I would like to highlight the 2 books, Midwinter and Blanket of the Dark, in which Buchan worked on the Oxfordshire and Cotswolds landscapes. Buchan had loved Oxford since his university days, and after the First World War he purchased the manor house at Aylesfield, just north of the city. To use Richard Hannay's words, he felt that he was settled in the pleasantest kind of harbour. It was here that he would write his most successful books. He loved this corner of England and felt a drive to find some sort of communion with the generations who had lived in his new countryside in the past. The prologue to Midwinter brings Dr. Johnson to Aylesfield during his missing years, and gives Buchan an opportunity to write one of his most joyous chapters. The fancy could have come across as an indulgence, but no, Buchan is so determined to make the most of it that the reader is able to come to these pages again and again and never tire of the fun. When Buchan writes of the scenery, the sweep of landscapes, we have no doubt that he is writing about ground that he has trodden, even if historical accuracy requires him to reduce the pastures to watery marshes in places. When his characters catch the wind and rain in their faces, we can be sure that Buchan has felt those same experiences. He has felt the same wind, the same rain. But Buchan goes further. He brings a spiritual element to the natural history. With the light but telling touch of an experienced and professional author, he wants us to feel that the oaks and stones spoke to our forefathers just as they speak to us. The pathways, the woodland clearings, the broad shallow valleys can bring true witness to England's history. He most successfully does this without reverting to the supernatural, though he can find a place for the mystical. And he does it by allowing us to sense the destiny of the land. Once again, we are joining him on a writer's journey to discover further meaning in his adopted surroundings. John Buchan was a best-selling thriller writer, a natural and serious biographer, and a historical novelist who not only understood the task, but gave something extra to the genre. Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Malcolm Noble, and you've been listening to my thoughts on John Buchan's historical novels. Thank you for being there. Good night, and God bless.